Ready to dominate at the plate? Blast Baseball is trusted by more major league and college teams than any other hitting solution. The Blast sensor attaches to the knob of any bat, providing real-time feedback with every swing. Go to blastmotion.com and enter code NowD1 at checkout to save $25. All right, everybody, let's get right into it. I'm Alan Gay, and this is NowD1 Speaks. We got a great show today. We've got assistant coach from Iona University, Coach Scimanico. Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, fantastic. And man, I just want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join our show. Absolutely looking forward to this. Why don't you maybe kind of kick it off and just give us a little bit of an introduction of who you are?
All right. So right now I'm the pitching coach and recruiting coordinator at Iona. This is my third year, but got started playing high school baseball in Jersey at St. Joe's Regional. I graduated in 2012, moved on to Division III school down in Virginia, Shenandoah. I played there for 4 years. Then I got into indie ball right after that, had about a 3.5, 4-year career, and then got into coaching right at that winter. So got into coaching about 6 months after I started my college playing career, and was in that role for 3 years, and then transitioned over as a volunteer to Seton Hall. And then 2 years working there, got hooked up with Coach Burke up here at Iona, and this will be going into my third spring. So that kind of encompasses my whole career right there.
Hey, man, fantastic. A lot to talk about here. I'm really looking forward to this. But I got to tell you one thing right off the bat that really caught my attention was coaching and playing while you were in indie ball. How did that kind of come about?
So as soon as I graduated, about a month later, got hooked up to a team in New Mexico, and then finished out the season there, and then started that first kind of independent league off season where guys who are in that, it's a really unique landscape. It's the first time that you're not waking up at 6 a.m. for fall workouts and doing some different things. So I tried to take an investment in my career and went out to Driveline in December of 2016. And then the first month of the year, in January in 2017, my old college coach gave me a call, and we have a really great relationship, and said he needed a pitching coach for the spring. So I stayed out at Driveline for another 2 weeks and head out to Virginia, and then started coaching there. And actually my first day or second day on the job, we had a game. I started about a week after the season started. I had a game at Mary Washington. So kind of got right into it. So I was fortunate enough that a guy that I still communicate with pretty regularly today thought I would be pretty good at coaching, and I still don't know if he's right, but gave me an opportunity to get in it, and couldn't be more grateful. So it's kind of doing that together. It was a really unique landscape. It was really cool to kind of see the differences between playing with some 23, 24-year-olds and coaching up freshmen. It was really unique at the time, but I think it allowed me mentally to kind of step back as a player and try to teach people, and ended up teaching myself some things and kind of progress my career. Maybe not as far as I wanted to go, but I think I got everything I wanted out of it. So I think for me, it was a really unique landscape to kind of be in both shoes at one time. And then obviously coaching guys that I had an opportunity to play with started teaching me boundaries between a coach and a player, and kind of seeing the roles and different things and the responsibilities that were had in the different seat, right? When a game's going on and you're not pitching as a pitcher, you're kind of just hanging out. And as a coach, obviously you're trying to pay attention to everything and making sure everybody's in the right spot to be successful. So It was pretty unique in that regard.
Yeah, definitely unique, but absolutely the right path for you without question. Would you recommend that to anyone else? Or do you think that's something, the coaching and playing at the same time that you just kind of fall into? It has to be the right situation, or would you particularly maybe advise some younger players to maybe look at that potential?
Well, I think at the Division III level, there's so many unique opportunities, right? Because there's no limit to coaching staffs. You could have 5 or 6, 7, 8 guys on staff. So obviously at the Division I level, there's limits to how many people you could have working with your players. But for myself, I think anybody who plays indie ball has a sense of grinder to them and a little bit of grit. So, I mean, those guys love being around the game, and a lot of guys that I play with, they're still involved with it in some way. I think for myself, coaching is such a trial by fire process that the earlier you can get started in it, I realize that this is something I want to do for the rest of my life.
Thank you for your support by listening to NowD1 Speaks. If you are a prospect or a coach and would like to be heard, please reach out to Alan Gay to schedule an appearance. The easiest way to contact Alan is on X, formerly known as Twitter. His handle is @now_D1. NowD1 Speaks is a great platform to be heard. We have had many prospects commit after appearing as a guest. Are you ready to commit? Contact NowD1 Speaks today.
Okay, Coach, I got to tell you, I really kind of want to talk to you just a little bit about Shenandoah University. And one thing before I say that, I'm just kind of thinking about your age. You mentioned in your introduction that you graduated high school in 2012, correct?
Yeah.
Man, you are super young. I mean, you've had a great playing career and a really fantastic coaching career. Very, very young guy. But let's talk about Shenandoah University. When you graduated high school out of New Jersey, what led you to Shenandoah? How did you make that decision?
So it was pretty funny. I had Tommy John my junior year of high school in April. And then about 10 months out of Tommy John, I went to a showcase at Watica. And it's a pretty prominent travel team up here in North Jersey. And they've done a great job for 30 years. And then had an opportunity to run to a Shenandoah coach and actually made a decision after I graduated high school. So I probably made, obviously in the days of early commitment, I probably made about a latest commitment you could possibly make out of high school to pick a school. So I committed, I think late June after I graduated high school and went down there, and it ended up being the best decision I could have made for myself.
Absolutely. Can you kind of give us, and as you know, our core audience is really uncommitted high school prospects, and they're trying to figure out an opportunity to really move to the next level. And quite honestly, they're trying to figure out how to get associated with you, Coach. And I'm just thinking, what I'd really like to ask you is, what was it specifically about Shenandoah that really drew you to them?
I think the way the head coach, Kevin Anderson, spoke about the program, the success they've had. I went from a really prominent high school that was about winning. I had some opportunities that maybe were a step up from a league and Division II standpoint. But the idea of going to a program that the year before I got there was actually one win away from a World Series. They ended up losing to Salisbury the year before. So going there, playing for, and obviously a historical great coach, and the recruiting coordinator, David Jenkins, did a great job of kind of convincing me that this was a place. And to be honest, it really wasn't much convincing. They just kind of talked about what they did and what they believed and how they kind of shape young men. And that was something I was really interested in.
Man, fantastic. And if I understand correctly, I believe your senior year, you had an opportunity to be the captain of the team as well, or at least a co-captain, correct?
Yeah, co-captain.
Fantastic. What are the roles of a captain? What's your responsibilities?
I think the biggest thing is there's twofold, right? The number one, I think, is being a conduit between the players and the coaching staff, right? Coaching staff wants to be able to have a pulse of what's going on with the team. And for us, is we need to be able to deliver coach's message to the ball club and vice versa, right? If players are talking about things that need to get talked about to the skipper, that's something we got to bring forward. And I think the next role is just kind of leading by example. It's one of the biggest rosters still to this day in college baseball. When I was there, I think it was my senior year was 64, 65 guys. We had a JV program, so obviously that kind of went, but it's kind of taken all those guys and showing them the way, especially as a Division III program. I know the rules have changed this year where they allow some more practices, but a lot of it was captains-led practice, teaching guys the playbook, understanding the system. So when we started that first day of fall, there was no instituting our bunt defenses or how we ran the bases. Everything was kind of instilled from upperclassmen and captain and leadership. So a lot of that was trying to get guys prepared of what it takes to be successful.
Man, I got to tell you, just every step of the way has really been preparing you to be a coach. I just really, really appreciate this time that we have together and you just kind of walking through your experiences. It really shapes your career and helps us understand how you got from where you were to where you are today. And thinking along those same lines, I'd love to hear some of your philosophy and strategy, so forth, in regards to pitching. And one of the things that I've always found fascinating is, from a pitching coach perspective, how do you really determine who are the guys that you're going to be able to lean on? Who who are the dogs that are going to be your starters, and who's the guys that you can really rely on to come out of the bullpen? And how do you figure that out, preseason and even during the season?
Well, I think that my philosophies are kind of shaped in where I grew up, right? So the high school coach I played for and obviously the college coach I played for, their biggest thing was competitiveness and competition, right? Like those two things, like competitiveness is driven from competition. So the ability to just always compete. So we'll pitch a lot in the fall. Our guys throw for about 6 weekends of live. Most guys, whether you're a freshman or you're a 2-year returning starter, like you're going to throw anywhere from like 13 to 16 innings for us. So we'll try to track as much as we can to get a best idea of who can help us win. I think the biggest thing of seeing that at a Division III level is that winning comes in all shapes and sizes. So I think it's for us is not getting in the way of, oh, hey, this guy's too short or this guy's too high of effort. It's trying to put guys in roles where they have opportunities to fail and then opportunities to succeed. If all you do is go out there and throw an inning or two, it's really hard to see if you can go out and be a starter. And if you're a situation where you come in and nothing's on the line in the fall, it's really hard to see if you could pitch in those kind of leverage innings that you spoke about. So I think for us, it's to try to make it competitive all the time and compete. I think that's something how we drive it. But I think at the end of the day is the guys that you want on the mound when the game is the most important are the guys that care about it the most, right? Like winning eventually finds a will, right? When there's a will, there's a win. Those two words starting with the same letter in the alphabet, I don't think is a coincidence. So I think the biggest thing for us is find guys that have a will to win. And when you go out there, you have a competitive nature to you, and you go about and just figure out a way to execute.
Absolutely. Did any of those strategies really start getting developed during your experience in the independent league?
Yeah, so it was kind of a bit of both, right? Because I played for a college coach that was super old school, right? Like no plyo balls, no bands. Like if you did bands my freshman, sophomore year of college, like you were considered high maintenance. Like you were a different breed. And then obviously when I went out to train the drive line, it kind of opened up my eyes to some unique ways from player development stuff. So I think myself is like I've developed a little bit of an old school and new school mentality. Maybe new school when it comes to some of the advanced like developmental stuff, and old school when it comes to some of the competitive atmosphere stuff. So I think I try to blend both. But at the end of the day, like I think we have a bunch of guys that some guys have come from facilities that have done a great job in player development in terms of getting guys to throw harder, improving stuff, and then we have some guys that like have never touched a plow ball in their life. So like I think my well-roundedness can kind of suit both avenues. And it's been the same way in indie ball. Played with a couple guys that had an opportunity to pitch in the big leagues and then played with some guys that are finding a way to get there. And I think being around different types of players from around the country, you can kind of see how their like professional career and how their playing style got developed by different areas and different styles around the country.
Yeah, that's great experiences. And one thing that always interests me, especially the guys that have really made it to the professional level, what is it that you think that stands out? What sets them apart? Because so many guys have the physical attributes, but some guys make it and some don't. What do you think maybe is that little difference that really propels the guys with the same type of physical skills and attributes just to make that one extra step and really become successful?
I think it's finding joy in all areas of playing the game. There's guys that go out and struggle, and the next day they're there and they're smiling and ready to take BP. And there's days where they're 3 for 3 and they have the same attitude going the next day. So I think consistency in failure and consistency in succeeding, how they approach the game is so similar. And I think ultimate confidence in themselves, like those two attributes, especially with the guys that I played with that were very, very good, is no matter what the previous day was, you couldn't really tell the next day they showed up to the yard. And when you're playing any ball and you're playing 100 games or 80 games and you're training in the off season, not getting paid to do it, like the will and want to go to the field and challenge yourself every day is a constant battle. And I think the guys that are really good at it are the best at kind of handling that roller coaster ride of emotions and success and failures.
Well, let me ask you, and I really want to talk about Iona University and your role, not only as the pitching coach, but the recruiting coordinator. Those same aspects that you were just kind of describing, are those the characteristic traits that you're looking for in a high school recruit or a junior college recruit or even a transfer that you think would translate over into being successful at Iona?
Yeah, I mean, I think that your personal beliefs and what's going to be successful is always kind of shaped around your own personal experience as much as you try to kind of weigh that out and be objective. But I think the biggest thing is seeing guys how they play when they play well and seeing guys how they play when they don't play well. In a perfect world, it's really easy to show up and see somebody pitch awesome, but how they you want to see both, right? You want to see how they can battle through adversity. And you want to see how they do when they're kind of riding that wave of performing at a high level. So, I mean, those traits are, I think, if people are great. I mean, even junior college too, right? The transfer portal and junior college, it's unfair to think that someone's going to have 4 years of complete success, right? Or even in the travel ball circuit, once guys kind of start to get on college radars, it's hard to think that someone's going to have 2 months or 6 months or 2 years of straight succession. One instance is we had a younger kid who was a sophomore at the time come to camp 2 years ago, and he was fine, and he was a good player. But kind of going out and seeing him struggle and then seeing the developmental he has, like it's very rare that anybody's going to step on a college campus and not need to get better to help. So seeing that he has gotten better, developed in his time frame that he's been committed to us has been great. Because I think for us is that if you stop getting better once you get to campus, whether it's number one program in the country or you're at the smallest Division III program in the country, like someone's always going to pass you and they're always going to try to bring in players that are better than you. So development and in constant improvement is something that's always going to shape good players, and something that we try to do here.
Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, what is your favorite avenue for recruiting? And what I mean by that is Iona University is going to recruit across the country. But do you enjoy going to high school games to watch a recruit, or them coming to your prospect camp, or just looking at video? What do you think, for you personally, what do you enjoy, or what do you get the most out of in regards to recruiting in a specific atmosphere?
So I think that's a really great question. I think that the question kind of has to get answered in two parts. So I think the first part, I love going to high school games. I think there's something to be said about once you win or lose a game, you're hopping on a bus with your closest friends, your teammates, and then if you win or lose that game, right, if you strike out when the game matters or if you do something great when the game matters, is you get to celebrate in the wins and losses with your teammates, right? So it just means a little bit more. When you're going to these tournaments, like most of these kids they have a familiarity with each other and they might be friends, but they're all getting in separate cars, all finding different places to eat. And sometimes really good teams are close together and you'll see that somewhere. But most of the time they kind of do their own thing. So the weight of failure and success starts to evaporate once they talk to their parents, right? Whether it's, hey, there's some positives, there's some negatives, but you don't really feel that until you're around your teammates. And I think the best way is, the reason why I feel that way is that my freshman year of college, I blew the conference tournament. And then I sat next to a senior on the bus. I blew the game that ended up sending us home. And then I sat with a guy that just played his last college baseball game. And I'm sitting there saying, man, I just ended this guy's career. And that weight kind of propelled me in my drive to make sure that I wasn't in that position again. But from a competitive standpoint, not everybody's fortunate enough to play in a high school league that you can get a great evaluation. If you're a high school player that faces 70 to 75 miles an hour on a consistent basis, and you're the best player in your league, it's kind of hard to project at what that guy's going to do. So I think travel ball also offers a better evaluation of talent, but I think high school offers that kind of essence of learning how a player competes and how they handle failure. So I think they both serve a purpose. And in a perfect world, we have an opportunity to see guys do both. But that's not always the case, right? Just in the spring, it gets super busy. We play a ton of games, and our guys are always going to come first. So from a priority standpoint, we don't always get to see high school games. But having the opportunity to do both, I think, gives you the best idea of how guys are going to come into the program.
Researching college baseball programs should be easy. College Baseball Insights provides data-driven tools to help student athletes, parents, coaches, and recruiters make the best informed decisions when researching college baseball programs. Go to collegebaseballinsights.com and use referral code NowD1-10 at checkout to save 10% on monthly, quarterly, and annual subscriptions. Time is precious. Reclaim your time with College Baseball Insights.
Man, great answer. Thank you for walking through that. And thank you for sharing that personal insight into sitting on the bus beside the senior. I mean, hey, you're pretty grown up to realize what was going on in your position and then to take that and to really kind of spur your own career on. So thank you for your candor and certainly appreciate it. Hey, let's talk a little about Iona. Hey, you guys just finished up the fall. You're back in school. Practice is starting to kick off. I know the weather's probably a little cool, but what's the expectation for this season?
Well, I think for us is we've always tried to set expectations that we can control, right? Whether it's been like how we compete and how we've kind of tried to build the program over the past 3 years. I think this year, I think the expectation is just try to win at everything, right? I don't really know what that means in terms of finding out the end result of wins and losses, right? I can't say, hey, our goal is 25 wins and a conference championship or whatever it is. But I think for us, it's trying to win each pitch, right? Trying to win each pitch, trying to win moments, trying to win the first third of the game, the second third of the game, the last third of the game, having the opportunity to compete as much as we can, and being successful in the times that we do compete. So I think that the expectation for us is we have a lot of experience coming back, a lot of guys that have been in the shoes of what it's been like to play conference games, what it's like to go on the road, what it's like to win a series at home. So I think our guys this year are the most experienced they've ever had, and I think a lot of these guys, from what their expectations are, is to go out and give ourselves an opportunity to win at a high level. What that ends up looking like at the end is obviously what every single coach is sitting there. And if we all had crystal balls, man, we'd be right now. There's 300 Division I teams that have an expectation of winning a conference championship. So not everybody can win it, but I think for us, our guys set our expectations, right? And as coaches, as much as we want to set them for them, is you're only going to be as good as, and you're only going to have as big as dreams as your players have. So I think for us is they do a good job of bringing that to the table every day and what their expectations are.
Absolutely, man. And I think in your introduction as well, you said that this is your third season with Iona.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you been the recruiting coordinator from the very beginning?
Yeah. So I got hired about a week after Coach Burke, and I've kind of tried to do my best and aid in what his vision is for the program, which is something I can completely get behind. And we've been kind of lockstep the entire way.
Absolutely. But I got to tell you, from your perspective, you've had a hand in really building 3 classes, I would say. And so you really know these guys. Certainly, you know the guys that you're going to be coaching anyway. But I mean, you've had a hand in really building the team. So I know you absolutely have a vested interest, not only in the success, whatever the success may be, but you've got a vested interest in each one of these guys' lives and how they're going to be developed, not only on the baseball field, but off the field as well.
Yeah, I mean, most of these guys that we all started with, I want to say, since we've been here, I think there's 9 or 10 guys from our first year, and there's been 30 new guys. When we came in, there was 26 players on the roster. So it wasn't like we took out a sword and started cutting people. It was just we had to add guys to the roster. So we've been really fortunate enough to hit on a lot of character traits, right? A lot of really good kids, and a lot of kids that have a vision of what we want to do to build this program. So on and off the field, they've done a great job. From a conduct standpoint, how they're looked at in the community, academically, they've been really successful. I want to say we just got our fall grades back and been fortunate enough to have our best academic semester since we've been here. I think it was like a 3.52. So they've embodied everything from what Coach Burke wants and singularity, what each of the assistant coaches want as well. And especially upperclassmen, they've kind of led the way and kind of seeing the trials and tribulations of what it's like to start how we started and to where we are now.
Congratulations, Coach Scimanico. I got to tell you, man, I have absolutely been enjoying our time together. And thank you for sharing that GPA. I'm telling you, just a student would love to have a 3.52 GPA, but you've got a baseball team that average 3.52. That just speaks volumes, because Iona's got a reputation of being a high academic school to begin with. So I know they're not just taking they're not taking basket weaving classes.
No,
you know that.
No. And I think the great part about it too, I think the most successful part is that not everybody came in as good students. And I think that's the case. That could be the case for a lot of high school kids. I know a lot of the kids that we recruited came up through high school during that COVID era where they might have took some classes online or didn't have an opportunity to do some things in person. But there's been some guys that, like, we've taken kids that are borderline Ivy League level academic kids and Rhodes Scholars. And we've taken some guys that you would like to double their GPA, honestly, if you're bringing them in. But they've done a great job of kind of the expectations. And I think the support here kind of speaks volumes about the investment level of our student athletes, because the amount of resources they have to kind of better themselves in the classroom is definitely plentiful.
Man, I'm just so happy for you, happy for the program. And I got to tell you, I mean, you're a young guy, smart guy, enthusiastic guy. I mean, you're just a pleasure to talk to. I can see why prospects from all over the country would absolutely be drawn to you and the University of Iona. Hey, I'd love to ask you one last question maybe before we hang up. And it's a question that I love to ask just about everybody that gets on. And it really kind of revolves around high school guys, specifically probably freshman age. And they're great athletes, really good at baseball, and they've got a dream to be good for as long as they can be. What kind of steps would you, or what kind of advice would you potentially give those guys at a young age that they could do today that potentially could set them up for success?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. And I think how I'd probably answer that is be willing to listen to everything, but have conviction in what you're doing. Because there's so much resources, right? Like, I don't think there's an excuse for a high school player to not know what it's like to gain weight, right? Like, there's so many information, there's so many good free information out there, whether it's through companies like Driveline or Tread or different strength and conditioning programs, or even just the mental game, right? Like, Brandon Geyer is a great example. Like, he puts a ton of stuff out there on Twitter where you can learn a little bit about the mental game, and you kind of saw that in. It was an NFL quarterback, I think, or college quarterback that did meditation prior to every game. And you saw CJ Stroud warming up with different implements, right? Everybody has so much information, and you have a supercomputer at your fingertips. But there's a reason why you're a good player, right? There's a reason why. Whether that's you're super athletically gifted, you're a great competitor, you're in an environment that allows you to be successful. So, again, I think taking all that information is great, and trying to add things to your game. But just like when I tried cooking for my wife for the first time, if you throw all the ingredients together at one time, sometimes it doesn't always come out right. It's the right mixture of stuff. So I think the most important thing is, like, take what you can, but understand why you're a good player in the first place. So use those resources, use them and abuse them, but don't overuse them, right? Like, have conviction in what you're doing, but go about work the right way and listen to everybody.
I got to tell you, that's a great answer. It's a fantastic perspective. It's a unique answer and one that no one has shared yet. And I think you're spot on. And thank you so much for that. And Coach Scimanico, again, thank you for being a part of our show. And man, I am just really looking forward to your continued success and certainly the success of Iona University as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on, and loved our talk.
And with that, I think we'll just say good night.
Hey, let me ask you something. Are you ready to dominate at the plate this season? Blast Baseball is the #1 hitting improvement solution, trusted by more major league, college, and travel ball teams than any other. The Blast sensor attaches to the knob of any bat, providing real-time feedback with every swing. Metrics are automatically sent to a smartphone app, generating insights that allow you to analyze and improve your hitting like never before. Go to blastmotion.com and enter code NowD1 and you will save $25 at checkout. Unlock your potential with Blast.